It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli. A brutal statement, yet one that slices into the heart of power. Most people chase approval, not realizing that admiration without respect is fragile. What matters is not how much people like you, but how carefully they calculate the cost of crossing you. That is where the dangerous edge of cunning begins. Have you noticed how many intelligent people fade into the background, while others with fewer gifts command the room? Intelligence alone doesn't crown leaders. Presence does. Presence built on silence, discipline, and subtle strategy. When people look at you and sense calculation behind your calm eyes, they treat you differently. They may not know why, but they tread carefully. This video isn't about sounding smart or collecting quotes. It's about applying strategy so that your very existence demands respect. What I'm going to share is unsettling, because it forces you to see human behavior not as you wish it to be, but as it is. And once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. That's both the danger and the advantage. Think of this as a manual not for the masses, but for the rare few willing to embrace self-mastery. Every secret here has one goal: to help you cultivate authority that doesn't need applause. To create a presence that silences a room before you've said a word. To become someone people follow not out of obligation, but because they feel they must. The truth is uncomfortable. Respect is never given. It's extracted. Influence is never permanent. It's maintained. And leadership doesn't come from shouting louder. It comes from strategic restraint. The strongest voice is often the one that speaks least, because its silence weighs heavier than the noise around it. That silence is your first weapon. But this journey isn't only about external power. It's also about inner mastery. Turning emotions into tools, discipline into armor, and philosophy into action. Machiavelli understood that rulers fall when they lack control of themselves. Authority over others always begins with authority over the self, and that is where your transformation begins. You'll learn how silence becomes a weapon, how mystery breeds influence, and how cunning, when paired with strength, creates unshakable authority. You'll see why manipulation collapses, but strategy endures. Each lesson is designed to make you rethink how you move in a world that constantly tests your limits. So prepare yourself. By the end, you won't just understand Machiavelli's philosophy, you'll embody it. And once you embody it, there is no going back. Because the moment others sense your dangerous cunning, you step into a realm where respect is no longer requested. It is inevitable. Most people are raised to believe that intelligence alone opens doors. But history shows otherwise. Many brilliant minds were overlooked, ignored, or even destroyed because they lacked cunning. Machiavelli's lesson is clear. Intelligence without strategy is like gold left unguarded. Dangerous cunning transforms raw intellect into authority that others cannot ignore. Dangerous cunning is not cruelty, it's control. It is the ability to project that every move you make has been calculated 3 steps ahead. When others sense that unpredictability, they hesitate to cross you. That hesitation is power. Fear doesn't always come from aggression. Often it comes from the quiet suspicion that you see more than you reveal. Think about the workplace. The smartest person in the room may share all their ideas freely, only to watch others take credit. The cunning person holds back, observing, waiting for the precise moment to strike. When they do, it feels surgical. One action outweighs 100 empty words. Authority doesn't come from being loud, it comes from being deliberate. In personal life, the pattern is the same. The one who argues endlessly to prove their intelligence often loses respect. The cunning one, however, uses silence, timing, and brevity to command attention. A single well-placed phrase can dismantle an opponent better than an entire speech. This is the art of presence. Influence born not from noise, but from precision. Great thinkers like Napoleon Hill echoed this. Knowledge is not power until applied. Reading books may fill the mind, but it's strategy that shapes destiny. The truly powerful don't parade their intelligence. They channel it through consistent discipline, building a reputation that demands respect without asking for it. There is also a psychological edge to this. When people cannot predict your next move, they grow cautious. They second-guess themselves, their uncertainty becomes your shield. This is what makes cunning dangerous. It destabilizes others without you lifting a finger. In their confusion, they grant you the respect they'd never offer willingly. But you cannot fake this kind of presence. Pretending to be calm while crumbling inside eventually reveals itself. True dangerous cunning is rooted in self-mastery. It comes from the alignment of thought, emotion, and action. When all three work together, people sense that you're not just intelligent, you're untouchable. Intelligence alone might earn admiration, but dangerous cunning earns respect. And respect, once established, changes the way people treat you forever. Yet this is only the beginning, because the first true weapon in cultivating this aura of authority is silence. And silence, as Machiavelli knew, can be sharper than any blade. Silence is never empty. In Machiavelli's world, silence was a deliberate weapon, sharper than words. When you speak less, people start filling the gaps with their own imagination. That uncertainty becomes respect, because they don't know what you're thinking. And what people cannot predict, they fear. Silence, then, is not weakness. It's the first language of power. How many times have you regretted saying too much? A rushed explanation, a careless confession, an emotional outburst. Each word exposed you. Silence prevents that exposure. It shields your image and reinforces self-control. When others realize they cannot provoke or corner you with words, they adjust their behavior. They begin to treat you carefully. Picture a crowded meeting. Everyone is desperate to speak, throwing arguments in every direction. You listen, you observe, you wait. Then, when the noise has burned itself out, you drop a single precise comment. That moment lands harder than all the shouting combined. Authority isn't about speaking often, it's about speaking with timing and precision. In relationships, silence holds even greater weight. The person who reacts instantly to every provocation seems fragile, easy to manipulate. The one who remains silent creates unease, forcing others to confront themselves. Silence is a mirror. It makes people hear their own words echo back at them. And in that echo, they often collapse. Machiavelli knew presence was more than words. It was posture, gaze, and restraint. Silence builds a wall around your authority. While others waste energy defending themselves, you conserve strength. You show you don't need to explain, because your calm confidence speaks louder than arguments. That is why silence commands attention without demanding it. You can practice this daily. When criticized, pause before answering. Let the weight of silence linger. That pause unsettles people. It signals that you are not reactive, but deliberate. It shifts the balance of power toward you. Even a few seconds of silence can feel like eternity to the one waiting for your reaction. That eternity becomes influence. Silence is not just tactical, it is spiritual. By mastering it, you master your emotions. You stop leaking energy through needless reactions. You cultivate an inner stillness that radiates outward. People may not understand why they respect you more, but they will feel it. Silence turns self-mastery into visible authority. When silence is no longer mistaken for weakness, but recognized as strategy, your power multiplies. People will hesitate before speaking carelessly around you, sensing that your silence is not emptiness, but calculation. Yet silence alone is not enough. The next step is learning to control the very force that betrays most leaders, their emotions. Machiavelli believed no one could rule others without first ruling themselves. Emotional control is the foundation of self-mastery. When anger, fear, or anxiety govern you, you become a servant to your impulses. And a servant, no matter how intelligent, can never inspire true respect. Authority begins where emotion ends, in calm, deliberate action. Imagine being insulted in public. The ordinary man explodes, proving his weakness. The cunning man smiles or stays silent and waits for the right moment to respond. That contrast changes everything. One loses control, the other gains presence. Emotional control is not suppression, it is transformation. It turns chaos into leverage. In everyday life, you see this at work. A coworker criticizes your idea. Your instinct is to snap back, but instead, you pause. You lower your tone. You respond calmly. That single choice makes you look stronger, not weaker. People realize you are not easy to provoke. And when provocation fails, respect rises. History honors leaders who embodied this. The Stoics taught that calm is invincibility. Machiavelli warned that rulers who let emotions dictate decisions are doomed. A general who panics loses wars before they begin. A leader who stays composed in crisis becomes a pillar others cling to. Emotional control is leadership in its purest form. Here's a practical habit. Learn to notice your body's signals. Rapid heartbeat, tightened fists, rising voice. Those are alarms. Instead of reacting, breathe slower. Shift your posture. Wait. This breaks the chain between stimulus and response. That pause is where power lives. It's where self-mastery begins to show itself outwardly. Emotion is also spiritual energy. Anger can become focus, fear can become caution, anxiety can become preparation. Emotional control is not about killing feelings, but channeling them. This transmutation fuels your personal, spiritual, and emotional growth. People will feel that transformation, even if they cannot explain it. Relationships also reveal this truth. No one respects the person who explodes at every inconvenience, but everyone leans on the one who stays steady under pressure. Emotional control creates a gravitational pull. People sense safety in your presence because you do not collapse when they do. That steadiness becomes authority. Without emotional control, no strategy holds. With it, every word and gesture gains weight. It is the root of power, the proof of discipline, the shield against manipulation. And once mastered, it opens the door to a higher skill, turning influence into undeniable authority without ever asking for it. Influence is the first spark. It gets people to notice you, to listen to your words. But authority is the fire that keeps burning long after the words are gone. Machiavelli insisted a ruler should never beg for loyalty. Authority must be inspired, not requested. When others feel your presence demands respect, you've crossed from influence into true leadership. Too many people chase approval. They want to be liked, hoping that likability will translate into power. But smiles and charm don't last. Real authority comes from consistency, aligning your words and actions until they're inseparable. Influence may open doors temporarily, but authority builds fortresses that last. Think of the workplace. The boss who yells gets obedience, but only out of fear. The leader who is fair, firm, and steady gets loyalty. His instructions are followed not because of punishment, but because of trust. That is the difference between influence that fades and authority that endures. In personal life, it's no different. The friend who gives advice but never lives by it loses credibility. The one who embodies discipline and values becomes a model others quietly follow. People may admire the talker, but they obey the doer. Authority is lived, not spoken. Start small. Keep your promises. Show discipline in everyday habits. Respond with calm instead of defensiveness. Each action builds your image brick by brick. Over time, those bricks form a wall of authority others cannot ignore. Respect stops being requested and starts being assumed. Authority also carries a spiritual element. True authority isn't tied to titles, money, or positions. It's an energy you radiate. A person balanced in personal, emotional, and spiritual growth naturally commands respect. People sense it even without words. It's the silent gravity of self-mastery. This is why influence alone is fragile. Influence depends on mood and opinion. Authority transcends both. When your life reflects discipline and coherence, you stop convincing people. They convince themselves you're someone to follow. That's when authority becomes effortless and respect becomes automatic. But to reach this level, Machiavelli reminds us, you must master a deeper duality, knowing when to be the fox and when to be the lion. Strength and cunning, force and subtlety. Only those who balance both truly step into undeniable power. Machiavelli's most famous metaphor describes the ruler as both fox and lion. The lion represents raw strength, the ability to intimidate. The fox represents cunning, the ability to detect traps and weave through them. If you are only a lion, you are predictable. If you are only a fox, you are weak. But if you embody both, you become untouchable. In modern life, we see this everywhere. The boss who leads only with fear creates resentment. The one who uses only clever tricks loses trust. But the leader who can roar when necessary and outwit when required is respected. People don't know which side they'll face next, and that uncertainty itself is power. Think about negotiations. Sometimes you must be the lion, firm, immovable, unwilling to bend. At other times, you must be the fox, patient, adaptable, conceding a little to gain much more later. The balance of force and subtlety turns even small exchanges into victories. It is less about domination and more about control of timing. In personal relationships, the same rule applies. Strength means standing firm in your values, defending your boundaries. Cunning means knowing when to listen, when to wait, and when to strike with precision. Together, these qualities create a magnetic presence that others cannot ignore or dismiss. Ancient strategists knew this well. Sun Tzu taught that adaptability wins wars. Machiavelli taught that unpredictability keeps rulers alive. When people cannot pin you down as either predator or prey, they treat you with caution. Their hesitation protects you more than any shield could. Spiritually, the lion symbolizes courage in facing the world, while the fox symbolizes wisdom in navigating it. When these two energies combine, they create balance within. That balance radiates outward as calm authority. People may not know why they respect you, but they feel both your strength and your cunning in every move you make. The fox and the lion together form a complete strategist. Too much force breaks things. Too much trickery corrodes trust. But the perfect mixture creates respect that survives both war and peace. It is the duality every leader must cultivate if they wish to endure. Yet mastering this duality isn't enough. To hold power in the long run, you must learn an even greater art: how to conceal your intentions, to dominate the social game without ever showing your full hand. Machiavelli taught that power often belongs not to the loudest, but to the most unreadable. When you reveal all your intentions, you make yourself vulnerable. The art of authority lies in leaving others uncertain about your next move. That uncertainty makes people cautious. And when people hesitate, you gain the upper hand without lifting a finger. Think about how often people sabotage themselves by oversharing. They tell everyone their plans, their struggles, their strategies. What happens? Envy, sabotage, or imitation. The cunning man holds his tongue. He observes. He releases information only when it serves his advantage. Surprise is a weapon, and it's sharpest when no one expects it. Even in the digital age, the same principle applies. Many expose every detail of their lives online, hoping to appear relevant. But overexposure weakens mystery. Mystery builds gravity. The less you reveal, the more others wonder. And what people wonder about, they respect. To show less is to increase the weight of what you do show. The social game is not about lies. It is about selective revelation. Speak when necessary, act when it counts, reveal only what strengthens your position. Like a chess master, you don't show every piece in motion, only the decisive ones. This discipline makes you seem larger than life, because people imagine more than they see. Here's a practice. Notice the 3 areas where you tend to talk too much. Begin cutting those words in half. Guard your thoughts until the moment they truly serve your goals. People will start to wonder, what is he thinking? What does he know? That question, unanswered, becomes its own form of power. Spiritual traditions echo this wisdom. Sacred truths are rarely spoken casually. They are guarded, revealed only to those ready to understand. Your own silence should work the same way. Protect your inner world. By doing so, you strengthen your personal, emotional, and spiritual balance. That balance is felt by others as authority. The beauty of concealment is that people often create a grander image of you than reality. They fill the void with their imagination. And imagination can make you appear larger, sharper, even more dangerous than you really are. That perception alone shifts the balance in your favor. But beware. Concealing your cards is powerful, yet fragile if mishandled. Because while concealment strengthens respect, certain mistakes can shatter leadership in seconds. And those fatal mistakes are the next lesson you must uncover. Power is often lost not through grand defeats, but through small cracks. Machiavelli warned that one careless slip can undo years of effort. The most common mistake is overjustification. Leaders who rush to explain themselves seem insecure. Authority doesn't explain, it demonstrates. The moment you beg for understanding, respect evaporates. Another deadly error is inconsistency. When your words say one thing and your actions say another, trust collapses. People don't follow speeches, they follow examples. A man preaching discipline while living in chaos becomes a joke. Authority is built on coherence, and without coherence, even the most cunning strategies fall apart. Impatience is another hidden enemy. The anxious leader reacts too quickly, making sloppy moves that reveal weakness. The strategist, however, knows the value of pause. A moment of silence can change an entire outcome. By rushing, you look desperate. By waiting, you look in control. One radiates weakness, the other radiates strength. Losing your temper in public is perhaps the most visible failure. Anger strips you bare, exposing your lack of self-mastery. No matter how right you are, an outburst makes you look small. Emotional explosions may feel powerful in the moment, but they permanently stain your authority. Calmness, even under attack, is what truly commands respect. Another mistake is chasing validation. Leaders who constantly seek approval become prisoners of opinion. If your worth depends on applause, you've already lost. Respect is not asked for, it is inspired. The man who walks confidently in silence will always command more authority than the one begging for recognition. Revealing too much is equally destructive. Total transparency may sound noble, but in power, it is naive. A leader with no secrets has no mystery, and without mystery, there is no magnetism. Guarding your inner world is not deceit, it is survival. Once you expose everything, you strip yourself of leverage. These errors don't break authority all at once. They erode it slowly. A reputation built over years can be undone by a single slip repeated too often. Respect is like glass, strong when intact, fragile when cracked. Once shattered, it is nearly impossible to restore. Avoiding these mistakes is the first safeguard. But avoidance alone is not enough. To strengthen authority, you must also master absence, knowing when to step back so that your presence carries 10 times the weight when you return. Machiavelli understood that too much presence can kill respect. When people see you constantly, they stop valuing you. Familiarity breeds contempt. But when you withdraw strategically, your absence magnifies your importance. People begin to wonder where you are, what you're planning, and when you'll return. That wondering feeds your authority. In professional life, this principle is clear. The man who talks in every meeting becomes background noise. The one who speaks rarely but chooses his moments creates anticipation. His words carry more weight precisely because they are scarce. Absence is not neglect. It's a deliberate tactic to increase demand for your presence. The same rule applies in personal relationships. The one who clings, who is always available, loses allure. The one who occasionally withdraws creates a vacuum that memory fills. People start replaying your last words, magnifying your presence even in your absence. Distance creates mystery, and mystery creates respect. Absence is not abandonment, it's a resource. Delaying a response, declining constant invitations, or stepping back from a conversation at the right time all send a message. Your time is valuable, and what is scarce is always respected. By managing your availability, you signal control and raise your perceived worth. History is full of examples. Monarchs who vanished from public view for months would return with renewed authority. Artists who withheld their work built legend around their names. Even in politics, disappearing at the right moment amplified a leader's image. Absence, used wisely, becomes a force multiplier of influence. Spiritually, absence is retreat. It is the moment of silence you take to realign, to strengthen your mind and emotions. By pulling away from noise, you deepen your inner mastery. When you return, you radiate clarity and strength that others immediately feel. Mystery outside is born from discipline inside. The psychology is simple. When people don't know what you're doing, they invent stories. They often exaggerate your power rather than diminish it. This is the essence of mystery. Others build your reputation for you, and their imagined version of you often commands more respect than the reality ever could. But absence must be balanced. Too much, and you fade into irrelevance. Too little, and you drown in familiarity. The key is timing. Appear enough to be remembered, disappear enough to be desired. And once you've mastered this, the next step is learning how to win loyalty without ever begging for it. Machiavelli warned that loyalty gained through force or bribery is fragile. It lasts only as long as fear or reward remain. True loyalty cannot be bought or demanded. It must be inspired. And inspiration comes from authority, born of self-mastery. People choose to follow you not because they must, but because they believe resisting you would be foolish. The greatest mistake weak leaders make is pleading for support. When you beg for loyalty, you reveal insecurity. Respect does not come to those who chase it. Respect is drawn to those who stand firmly in discipline and consistency. The leader who embodies control over himself naturally gains control over others. In business, the pattern is obvious. A boss who threatens commands obedience, but only temporarily. As soon as the threat disappears, so does compliance. A true leader protects, guides, and exemplifies. His followers remain even in hardship because his presence represents stability. That is the power of loyalty freely given. Personal relationships reflect the same truth. The partner who clings, who constantly seeks validation, drains respect. The one who shows self-possession, who does not crumble in absence, becomes magnetic. People admire strength, not desperation. Loyalty comes when your presence feels like shelter, not a demand. Here's a practice. Examine your daily behavior. Ask yourself, am I inspiring or am I insisting? Inspiration requires example. Keep your word. Act with calm in conflict. Maintain your standards without compromise. These habits broadcast authority louder than pleas ever could. People respect those who respect themselves first. Spiritually, loyalty aligns with energy. When your personal, emotional, and spiritual growth converge, you radiate balance. Others feel that balance and are drawn to it. They sense that standing with you strengthens them. That is loyalty at its purest form, not obligation, but alignment with something greater. Real loyalty reveals itself in crisis. Fair-weather followers vanish when storms arrive. True followers remain, not because you chained them, but because your leadership anchors them. When hardship comes, loyalty inspired by respect endures. Loyalty demanded through fear collapses. This is the dividing line between authority and illusion. Winning followers without begging is an art. But it raises a deeper question. How do you ensure your strategy doesn't slip into manipulation? Where is the line between practical philosophy and deceit? Understanding that boundary is essential if you want power that lasts. Machiavelli has long been accused of promoting manipulation, but that is a shallow reading of his work. Manipulation exploits others for short-term gain. Practical philosophy, on the other hand, recognizes human nature as it is and uses that truth strategically. The difference lies in intention. Are you eroding trust, or are you building authority through discipline and restraint? In daily life, this line is sharper than it seems. Manipulation is lying to close a deal. Strategy is choosing silence until the right moment to speak. Both look similar on the surface, but one poisons relationships, while the other strengthens presence. The cunning leader isn't dishonest, he's selective. He knows when revelation serves power and when concealment protects it. Consider leadership. A manipulative manager withholds information to sabotage his team. A strategic leader shares just enough to maintain order and avoid chaos. One destroys confidence, the other earns it. People may not always see the difference at first, but over time, the outcomes separate fraud from wisdom. Mystery often confuses outsiders. They assume secrecy equals deception. But secrecy is not manipulation, it is survival. The manipulator hides because he fears exposure. The strategist conceals because he values advantage. One leaves scars, the other leaves respect. This is the razor's edge every leader must learn to walk. Spiritually, manipulation corrupts the manipulator. Living in deceit breeds anxiety and paranoia. Strategy, however, cultivates mastery. Using silence, patience, and calculation as tools strengthens inner discipline. It transforms energy into focus and makes you harder to unsettle. What looks dark to the naive is simply maturity in disguise. Manipulation creates results, but they are brittle. They collapse as soon as people see through the deception. Strategy builds results that last because they rest on coherence. When your actions align with your principles, you radiate authority. People trust that consistency, even if they don't always like it. Ask yourself before each move, am I seeking quick advantage, or am I building lasting authority? That question alone keeps you from crossing into manipulation. Temptation will always whisper shortcuts, but shortcuts cost trust. And trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to restore. When you master this line, you realize true power does not depend on tricks. It comes from balance, clarity, and above all, self-mastery. And that leads to the final lesson. The ultimate power is not found in others, but in the total command of yourself. Machiavelli understood that no throne is secure without a ruler who first governs himself. Self-mastery is the invisible crown, the authority that cannot be stolen or overthrown. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions align, you radiate a presence that commands respect without needing force. It is the deepest foundation of all power. In personal life, self-mastery reveals itself in discipline. Waking early when you'd rather sleep, studying when distraction calls, holding your composure when insulted. These small victories accumulate into a reputation of strength. People respect consistency more than brilliance. Your steadiness becomes a fortress others cannot shake. Spiritually, self-mastery is alignment with something higher than ego. By retreating from noise and cultivating silence within, you sharpen clarity. That clarity shields you from manipulation and gives direction in chaos. Leaders throughout history knew this truth. You cannot guide others if you remain lost within yourself. Emotionally, self-mastery is the refusal to be enslaved by impulse. When provoked, you pause. When mocked, you smile. When pressured, you breathe. That calm unsettles enemies and comforts allies. It is the mark of someone untouchable. Authority is not loudness. It is the serenity that bends chaos to your rhythm. Practical examples are everywhere. In negotiation, the one who stays calm wins. In conflict, the one who doesn't break earns respect. Emotional explosions weaken you. Composure strengthens you. Every moment you choose control, you add weight to your authority. Power grows in silence, one deliberate choice at a time. Self-mastery is also armor against flattery and criticism alike. When you know yourself, you are not swayed by empty praise or crushed by attack. You walk steadily, untouched by extremes. People sense this invulnerability, and it magnifies your influence. You become a fixed point in a world of instability. Philosophically, true leadership is not about bending others to your will. It's about embodying control so completely that others naturally follow. A man who has conquered himself has already conquered half the world. That is why respect flows to him without request. Self-mastery is the highest form of authority. When you reach this level, you realize every lesson, silence, cunning, presence, mystery, has pointed here. All power begins within. Once mastered, it reflects in every gesture, every word, every silence. And now that you hold this key, the only question that remains is, will you apply it, or let it slip into theory? You've now seen what Machiavelli understood centuries ago. Respect isn't handed out, it's claimed. Authority doesn't come from noise, but from strategy. And true power doesn't begin with others, it begins within you. The question is, will you use these insights, or let them fade like another forgotten lesson? Think back on your own life. How many times have you lost influence by speaking too quickly, by reacting emotionally, or by showing too much of your hand? What would change if you chose silence over impulse, patience over panic, strategy over desperation? That choice could redefine how people see you from this day forward. The world doesn't reward the naive. It rewards those who observe, calculate, and strike with precision. Those who embody the fox and the lion, who turn influence into authority, who practice absence and mystery until respect becomes automatic. This isn't theory. It's the code of survival, and now it's yours. But the next move belongs to you. In which area of your life will you apply dangerous cunning first? At work, in relationships, or in mastering yourself? Share it in the comments below, because declaring it is the first step toward living it. If this message resonated, subscribe and activate the bell. Each video here is another piece of the puzzle, a weapon for your mind, a shield for your emotions, a guide for your strategy. Together, they form the blueprint of self-mastery. And before you go, watch the video now appearing on your screen and linked in the description. It will sharpen the lessons you've learned today and take you even deeper into the psychology of power. Because in the end, life is a game of presence and perception. You can either drift with the crowd, or you can step into the role of strategist, the one others respect in silence. The choice is yours, and respect, once claimed, changes everything.